Revenge with Karen.
You know that specific smell of a mid-sized logistics office? It's a cocktail of burnt Keurig coffee, ozone from overheating copiers, and the distinct, metallic tang of suppressed rage. That was my habitat for 8 years. I was the load-bearing wall in a house of cards built by a man named Mark, a director of operations whose only operational skill was converting oxygen into excuses. I'm Emily. I'm the woman you walk past without seeing. I'm the one fixing the spreadsheets at 7 p.m. while the sales bros are at happy hour high-fiving over margins I rescued. My husband, Eric, works here too, a rung below Mark, a rung above me, and floating somewhere in the stratosphere of willfully ignorant. It started like any other Tuesday, which is to say, it started with a crisis Mark created. We had a shipment of medical-grade silicon stuck in customs in Rotterdam. I had flagged this issue 3 weeks ago. I had sent emails. I had color-coded the warning in the weekly report. I had practically hired a skywriter to spell out Mark. The Dutch are going to seize the cargo. He ignored it. He was too busy visioneering and planning his executive retreat, which everyone knew was just him getting drunk in a jacuzzi in Tahoe on the company card. So, when the client called screaming at 9 a.m., Mark didn't panic. Mark looked for body. The staff meeting was at 10 o'clock. The conference room was one of those glass fishbowls where privacy goes to die. The air conditioning was broken, again, so everyone was sweating through their polyester blends. Mark stood at the head of the table, his face that dangerous shade of boiled ham he gets when he's cornered. "We dropped the ball, people," Mark said, his eyes scanning the room, looking for a throat to slit. Accountability is the cornerstone of this organization. I was typing notes, trying to keep my head down, praying to a God I stopped believing in during the Q3 audit of 2019. "Emily," he barked. My stomach did that thing where it tries to exit through your shoes. "Yes, Mark. Why didn't you clear the customs paperwork for the Rotterdam shipment?" The room went so quiet you could hear the hum of the vending machine down the hall. "I did, Mark," I said, my voice steady but thin. "I sent the forms to your inbox for signature 3 weeks ago. I followed up on the 12th, the 14th, and yesterday. You said, and I quote, 'Stop nagging me about the tulips, Emily, I'm handling big picture strategy.'" I shouldn't have said the quote. I knew it the second it left my lips. You don't quote a narcissist to his face in front of an audience. Mark didn't yell immediately. He did something worse. He smiled. A tight, predatory grimace that showed too much gum. "So it's my fault?" he asked, his voice dropping an octave. "You're blaming leadership for your inability to manage up." "I'm not blaming anyone," I said, my hands trembling under the table. "I'm stating the workflow." "You're insubordinate," he said, louder now. "You've been negative, toxic, and frankly, a drag on this team for months. Eric has told me how stressed you are at home. Maybe you're just not cut out for the big leagues." "Sweetheart," he looked at Eric, my husband, the man I share a mortgage and a bed with. Eric looked at his shoes. He inspected the stitching on his loafers like it was the Rosetta Stone. He said nothing, not a word. "I'm firing you," Mark said. It wasn't a discussion. He pulled a pre-printed envelope from his folio. He had this ready. He was waiting for scapegoat, effective immediately. "Pack your shit." "You can't be serious," I stood up. The blood rushed to my head. "Built this department's tracking system. I trained half this room. Get out." Mark slammed his hand on the table. The water pitcher jumped, "And don't bother going to HR. I've already briefed them on your instability." I looked at Eric again. "Eric," I pleaded. Eric finally looked up, his face pale, terrified. "Becky, just don't make a scene. We can talk at home." "Talk at home?" Mark laughed. It was a wet, ugly sound. "She doesn't need to talk, Eric. She needs to grow up." He walked over to the door, opened it, and slammed it shut with enough force to rattle the glass walls. Then he turned back to me, veins bulging in his neck, and screamed the words that would eventually cost him his soul. "Then go cry to your parents, Rebecca. Get out of my sight. Go cry to your parents." I'm 38 years old. My parents have been dead for 5 years. Mark knew that. He sent a cheap wreath to the funeral and billed it to the company expense account as client relations. The silence in that room was physical. It had weight. It pressed against my eardrums. 20 coworkers, people I've shared birthday cakes and gripe sessions with, stared at the laminate table. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. I felt something snap. Not a breakdown, a breakaway. My dignity didn't shatter, it just evaporated, leaving a cold, hard vacuum where my loyalty used to be. I picked up my laptop bag. I didn't say a word. I walked out of the fishbowl, past the reception desk where the 22-year-old intern looked like she was about to vomit from secondhand anxiety, and into the hallway. I was numb. You know how in movies people cry and throw things? Real devastation is quiet. It's a high-pitched ringing in your ears and the sudden realization that you are completely, utterly alone. Here's the thing about stories like this, about people like me who get chewed up and spit out by the corporate machine. We usually just fade away. We update our LinkedIns and move on. By the way, if you're reading this and feeling that rage bubble up, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. It helps get the story out there, and trust me, you're going to want to see where this train wreck lands. Karma is a slow burn, but I brought gasoline. I didn't fade away. Because as I walked down that hallway, blinded by tears I refused to shed, I wasn't as alone as I thought. The hallway stretched out like a mile of gray linoleum purgatory. My heels clicked against the floor, click, 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 a metronome counting down the seconds, until I could get to my car and scream until my throat bled. My hands were shaking so bad, I dropped my favorite mug, a ceramic thing that said Chaos Coordinator. It hit the floor and didn't break. It just bounced and rolled away, mocking me with its resilience. I bent down to grab it, but a hand got there first. Weather-beaten skin, knuckles swollen with arthritis, nails trimmed short and clean. It was Mrs. Alvarez. She was the evening cleaner. I'd seen her every day for 8 years. She was a ghost in a blue smock, pushing a cart full of industrial solvents and trash bags. Most people in the office treated her like a Roomba with a pulse, an obstacle to step around while talking on their AirPods. I was one of the few who actually knew her name. Not because I'm a saint, but because I was always the last one leaving the office, and she was the only other human being in the building at 7:30 p.m. We had a ritual. She'd empty my bin, I'd ask about her grandkids. She'd offer me a peppermint candy from her pocket. Mrs. Alvarez choked out, wiping a traitorous tear from my cheek. "I'm sorry, I'm just leaving." She held the mug out to me, but she didn't let go when I reached for it. Her grip was surprisingly strong. She looked around the empty hallway, her dark eyes sharp, intelligent, and devoid of the deference she usually wore like a uniform. "He yelled loud," she said. Her accent was thick, but her voice was low and steady. "The whole floor heard. Cry to your parents." "That is what he said." I nodded, feeling the humiliation wash over me again, fresh and hot. "Yeah, that's what he said. Mark is having a bad day. Mark is a pendijo," she said. It was the first time I'd ever heard her swear. She pulled me slightly closer into the alcove by the freight elevator, away from the cameras. "You go home now, Emily," she said. "You go home and you do not cry, you listen to me." "I have to go, Mrs. Alvarez. I don't work here anymore." "I know," she whispered. "That is good. You are free of the poison. But you need to listen, my son." "You know my son?" I shook my head, confused. "I didn't know you had a son nearby. I thought they were all in Texas." She smiled, a small, secretive curling of her lips. "I have one here, Daniel. He works for how you say, the big company, the one that owns this one, corporate," I asked. "Parent company?" "Yes, Daniel Alvarez. He is the regional vice president, oversees this branch. He oversees Mark. He oversees your husband." My brain stopped. It literally stalled out. I tried to process this information. The woman who scrubbed the toilets Mark destroyed after Taco Tuesdays was the mother of the regional VP. It sounded like a telenovela plot twist or a hallucination brought on by stress. "Daniel?" I repeated. "Wait. I've heard Mark complain about a Daniel from HQ. He calls him the spreadsheet sniper." "Is my boy?" She beamed with pride. "He's very good with numbers. He buys me a house, he tells me I don't have to work. But I like to work, I like to see things. People talk in front of the cleaner, they think I am furniture. I hear everything. I hear Mark steal the credit for your work. I hear him lie about the numbers. I hear him tell your husband to keep the bitch on a leash." I gasped. "He said that last week, by the coffee machine." She patted my hand. "My Daniel has been watching. He suspects things are rotten, but he needs the key." She reached into her smock pocket and pulled out a burner phone, or at least a very old Nokia. She pressed a button and showed me a text message she had just sent. It read, "Mark fired Emily. He blamed the Dutch shipment. He screamed about parents. It is time." "Stay home tomorrow, Emily," Mrs. Alvarez said, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial hiss. "Do not answer the office. Do not answer HR. Let the men run their mouths first. Let them dig the hole. My Daniel will call you." "Why are you helping me?" I asked, my voice trembling. She looked at me, her eyes hard and ancient. "Because 5 years ago, when my husband died, you were the only one who sent a card. You put $50 in it. Mark docked your pay for being late to the funeral." She remembered. I had forgotten, but she remembered. Go. She pushed me gently toward the elevator. He will be begging. By Friday, he will be begging. I walked to my car in a daze. The sun was shining, which felt insulting. I sat in my Honda Civic, gripping the steering wheel, my knuckles white. I had been fired. My career was in ashes. My husband was a coward. But as I looked up at the fourth-floor window of the office building, I didn't feel like a victim anymore. I felt like a loaded gun. Mrs. Alvarez wasn't just a cleaner. She was a sleeper agent, and she had just activated me. The next morning, the silence in my apartment was louder than a jet engine. Usually, I'd be up at 6 o'clock a.m., mainlining coffee, checking emails, and ironing Eric's shirts because he doesn't get the creases right. Today, I sat at the kitchen table in my pajamas, watching the dust motes dance in the sunlight. Eric was frantic. He was rushing around, shoving toast into his mouth, looking at me like I was an unexploded bomb he didn't know how to defuse. Are you okay?" he asked, tie half done. "I'm fine, Eric. Look, babe," he started, using that condescending I'm the rational male voice I had grown to hate. "I know Mark was harsh yesterday, but you have to understand the pressure he's under. The Dutch shipment is a disaster." I warned him about the Dutch shipment, Eric. I know. You challenged him in public. That's insubordination. He had to save face. He paused, checking his watch. I talked to HR. They're preparing a severance package. It's generous. 2 weeks pay. If you sign the NDA, 2 weeks, I laughed. It was a dry, rasping sound. 8 years, Eric, I built the tracking system, and he offers 2 weeks and a gag order. It's standard, Emily. Don't be difficult. Just stay here, cool off. Don't post anything on social media. Please, for my sake? I still have to work there. For your sake, I repeated. Right? Go to work, Eric. Don't be late. Mark might need someone to hold his ego while he pees. He slammed the door when he left. I watched him get into his leased BMW, a car we couldn't really afford, but Mark insisted his management team needed to project success. I made a pot of coffee and sat there. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. HR, probably. Mark calling to scream some more. I let it go to voicemail. 10 minutes later, buzz. Unknown number. I ignored it, then my laptop chimed. A calendar invite sent to my personal email. Subject, consultation/Alvarez time. Now link, secure video channel. My heart hammered against my ribs like a trapped bird. Mrs. Alvarez wasn't kidding. I clicked the link. The screen flickered and a man appeared, who was sitting in an office that looked like it belonged on the Starship Enterprise. Minimalist, glass, chrome. No clutter, no live, laugh, love signs, just efficiency. He looked like a shark in a tailored suit. Sharp features, slick back hair, and eyes that were the exact same shade of observant onyx as Mrs. Alvarez. Mrs. Emily Miller. His voice was smooth, baritone, calm. Yes, you must be Daniel. I am. Thank you for joining me. Apologize for the intrusion on your personal device, but my mother speaks highly of you, and she has. Let's call it excellent situational awareness. She told me to stay home, I said. She gave you good advice. If you had gone in today or spoken to HR, they would have locked you into a narrative. Disgruntled employee, performance issues, mental breakdown. That's the paperwork Mark filed last night at 11:30 p.m. He filed it already? Oh yes. Claims you were hysterical, threw objects, and refused corrective feedback regarding the Rotterdam logistics. Daniel looked down at a tablet on his desk. He also claims he has been coaching you for 6 months on your attitude problems. That's a lie, I said, the anger flaring up hot and bright. I have my reviews. They're all exceeds expectations until Mark realized I was correcting his mistakes. I assumed as much, Daniel said. He leaned forward. Emily, going to be blunt. I've been looking into the branch for 6 months. The numbers don't add up. The overtime is astronomical, yet shipments are late. Client retention is dropping, but Mark is slippery. He covers his tracks. He blames the market, the vendors, and apparently you. He uses people, I said. He uses us until we break, then he replaces us. I need you to help me break him, Daniel said. It wasn't a request. My mother says you keep records. She says you're the type of woman who writes things down. I hesitated. This man was technically the enemy. He represented the corporation that just fired me. But looking at his face, cold, precise, but oddly respectful, I realized he wasn't looking for a scapegoat. He was looking for a weapon. I have a folder, I whispered. I call it my CYA folder. Cover your ass. Daniel smiled. It was the first time his expression softened. I love a good acronym. What's in the folder, Emily? Everything, I said. 3 years of emails. Drafts of reports before Mark edited them. Time-stamped chat logs where he approved the overtime he now claims is unauthorized. recordings of meetings he thought were off the record because I was taking minutes. And the Dutch shipment? I have the email from 3 weeks ago where I explicitly told him the customs code was wrong. His reply was, "Don't bore me with details, just ship it." Daniel leaned back, steepling his fingers. "Emily, if you send me that folder, I can promise you 2 things. 1, Mark will never scream at anyone again. And 2, we need to discuss your future. Because I don't like losing competent people to incompetent managers." "What about Eric?" I asked. "My husband." Daniel's face went blank. "We'll get to Eric. But right now, you need to decide. Do you want to be the victim who got fired, or do you want to be the auditor?" I looked at the join meeting button. I thought about Mark's spit flying in my face. I thought of Eric inspecting his loafers. Where do I send the files? You know those hoarding shows where they open a door and a landslide of old newspapers and dead cats falls out? My CYA folder was the digital equivalent of that, but instead of cat skeletons, it was the fossilized remains of Mark's integrity. I sat there for 4 hours, uploading files to the secure server Daniel provided. It felt like an exorcism. File hash 001, the team building dinner. Receipts showing Mark spent $4,000 on a steak dinner for prospective clients. The clients were his fraternity brothers. I had the original itemized receipt because he was too lazy to scan it himself and threw it on my desk. He'd listed it as strategic partnership development. Had added a sticky note scan. "Mark, make sure this gets coded to marketing, not entertainment. Audit is coming." File hash 045, the overtime scandal. Mark loved to scream about budget discipline. Yet, here was a chain of emails where he forced the warehouse team to work double shifts to cover up his scheduling errors, then manually went into the payroll system, using my login, which he demanded I share for emergencies, alter the hours so they didn't trigger overtime pay. I had screenshots of the system logs showing the IP address of the changes came from his iPad, not my desktop. File hash 102, the Dutch disaster. This was the crown jewel. From Emily to Mark date, Oct 14, 9:03 a.m. subject. Urgent. Rotterdam Customs Code error mark. The HS code you selected for the silicon is for medical implants. This requires a Class Roman 3 permit we don't have. It needs to be coded as raw industrial material. If we ship as is, it will be seized. From Mark to Emily date, Oct 14, 9:15 a.m. subject. Urgent Emily, stop trying to play lawyer. I've been doing this for 20 years. The code stands. Stop nagging me about the tulips and focus on your KPIs. I highlighted "Stop nagging me about the tulips" in neon yellow. Daniel was reading them in real time. I could tell because every few minutes, a little chat bubble would pop up on our encrypted channel. Daniel, he charged a stripper pole rental to office supplies. Me, he called it ergonomic vertical support equipment. Daniel, creative. It was shameful, in a way. I felt dirty. Why had I sat on this? Why had I let him get away with it for so long? It was like a peasant in a medieval village watching the Lord burn the crops and thinking, well, at least he didn't burn my hut today. But then I remembered the "go cry to your parents" line. The shame evaporated, replaced by the cold, metallic taste of justice. "Emily," Daniel's voice came through the speaker again. He had turned the video back on. He looked grim, but also impressed. "This isn't just misconduct. This is fraud. This is labor violations. This is extensive. Is it enough?" I asked, sipping my 3rd cup of coffee. My hands had finally stopped shaking. "Enough," Daniel let out a short, sharp laugh. "Emily, this is a nuclear warhead. With this, I don't just fire him. I can contest his unemployment. I can claw back his bonuses. I can probably get him blacklisted from every logistics firm in the hemisphere." He paused, looking at a specific document. It was a performance review from 2 years ago where Eric, my husband, had signed off on Mark's evaluation of me. Mark had written, "Emily struggles with authority and emotional regulation." Eric had countersigned it. Daniel looked up at the camera. "Did you know Eric signed this?" I squinted at the screen. "No. Eric told me he fought for me in that review. He said Mark wanted to put me on a PIP, performance improvement plan, but he talked him down." "He didn't fight," Daniel said softly. "He agreed. See here." Eric added a note, agreed. "Emily can be difficult to manage during high-stress periods. We'll monitor." The air left the room. It wasn't just Mark. Mark was the predator, sure, but Eric was the scavenger. He was the little bird picking scraps from the crocodile's teeth. He threw me under the bus to keep his own seat warm. "I see," I said. My voice sounded dead. "I need you to do something difficult, Emily," Daniel said. I need you to act normal tonight. Eric comes home, he's going to try to manage you. He's going to try to get you to sign that severance. I need you to stall. Don't sign anything. Just listen. I need to know how deep his complicity goes before I pull the trigger. You want me to spy on my husband? I want you to see who you're actually married to. I looked at the empty apartment. The wedding photos on the mantel seemed to be mocking me. Okay, I said. I'll play the good little wife one last time. Eric came home at 6:45 p.m. He brought pizza, Domino's. I'm sorry you got fired, but please don't be mad special. He walked in with that cautious, deer-in-headlights look, scanning the room to see if I had packed a bag or burned the curtains. When he saw me sitting on the couch, watching the Great British Baking Show, my comfort TV, he visibly relaxed. Hey, Han, he said, putting the greasy box on the table. You okay? You didn't answer my texts. I was decompressing, I said, not looking away from the TV. Paul Hollywood is judging a sourdough. He sat down next to me, too close. He smelled like office sanitizer and fear. Look, I talked to Mark today. When he calmed down. Oh, did he apologize? Eric laughed nervously. Well, you know Mark, he doesn't really apologize. But he admitted he might have been elevated. He's willing to fast-track the severance. Even said he wouldn't contest it if you apply for unemployment, as long as you sign the release. How generous, I said. And what did you say, Eric? I told him that was fair. I mean, Becky, let's be real. You haven't been happy there for a long time. Maybe this is a blessing in disguise. You can take some time, maybe look into that Etsy shop you always wanted to do. My blood ran cold. The Etsy shop. The patronizing pat on the head. Go make your little crafts, honey. While the men do the business. And the go cry to your parents comment? I asked, turning to face him. Did you tell him that was out of line? Eric sighed, rubbing his temples. Babe, come on. He was stressed. You know he didn't mean it literally. He forgot about your folks. It was just a figure of speech. You're perseverating. Perseverating. A corporate buzzword he learned at a seminar last month. If someone spoke to me like that, I said quietly, I was your wife, wouldn't you want to punch him? Violence doesn't solve anything, Emily, he said, sounding like a scolding parent. I have to be professional. I have a mortgage to pay. We have a mortgage. If I blow up at Mark, we both lose our incomes. Is that what you want, to be homeless because of your pride? There it was. The pivot. My dignity was a threat to his financial security. I saw the performance review, Eric, I lied. Well, a half-lie. I saw it today, but I framed it like I knew all along. The one from 2022, where you agreed I was difficult to manage. Eric froze. A slice of pepperoni pizza halted halfway to his mouth. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't gaslight me, Eric. I'm unemployed, not lobotomized. You threw me to the wolves to keep Mark happy. You've been doing it for years. He dropped the pizza. It landed face down on the rug. A perfect metaphor for our marriage. Don't understand how it works. He snapped, his nice guy mask slipping. Mark is a psychopath. If I don't agree with him, I'm next. I did what I had to do to protect us. I kept the peace. You're the one who can't just keep your mouth shut and do the work. You always have to be right. I was right about the Dutch shipment, I said. Who cares about the damn shipment? He yelled. It's about hierarchy, Emily. He's the director, you're just support staff. Don't get to correct him. The silence that followed was heavy. He realized what he said. He called me just support staff, not his wife, not his partner, a subordinate. I think you should sleep in the guest room, I said. Oh, come on, Becky, guest room, or I leave. And if I leave, I take the car. He huffed, grabbed a beer from the fridge, and stomped off to the guest room like a petulant teenager. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A text from Daniel. Daniel, the trap is set. Stay home tomorrow. I'm initiating a level 1 audit. Watch the show. I looked at the closed guest room door. I realized I wasn't sad anymore. My dignity hadn't left faster than Karen's kedgels. It had just been hiding, waiting for ammunition. And I finally had a full clip. Wednesday was beautiful. I slept in until 8:00 a.m. I drank tea. I watered my plants. Meanwhile, 5 miles away, the office was burning to the ground. Got the play-by-play from Sarah, the receptionist. She didn't know I was working with Daniel. She just thought she was gossiping with her fired friend. Sarah texted, OMG, 4 guys in suits just walked in. They look like the FBI, but better dressed. They took Mark's laptop. Me, no way. What's Mark doing? Sarah, he's screaming. He's telling them they don't have authorization. One of the suits just handed him a paper, and Mark turned purple. He's locked in his office now. Daniel had launched a surprise compliance audit. In the corporate world, this is the equivalent of a SWAT raid. I logged into the secure channel Daniel gave me. He had shared a read-only view of the internal chat logs. He wanted me to see it. He wanted me to see the panic. Internal chat operations leadership Mark, who authorized these auditors? I need them removed. They are disrupting the workflow. Eric, I don't know Mark. Said they're from regional. They're asking for the Rotterdam files. Mark, don't give them anything. Tell them the files are corrupted. Blame Emily, say she deleted them before she left. I watched the text appear on my screen. Blame Emily, even now, even when I wasn't there. Daniel private channel to me. Did you see that? Me? Yep, he's predictable. Daniel, he just told the auditor that you maliciously destroyed data upon termination. That's a felony accusation. Emily, me? Good thing you have the backup I sent you yesterday. Daniel, exactly. We're letting him file the formal police report request. Once he signs that affidavit claiming you deleted the files, he's committed perjury and filed a false report. We're not just firing him, Emily. We're burying him. It was surgical. Daniel wasn't interrupting Mark. He was letting Mark build a fortress of lies, brick by brick, not realizing he was walling himself in. Eric came home early that day. He looked like he'd aged 10 years. It's a madhouse, he said, collapsing onto the sofa. Corporate is tearing the place apart. They're saying there are irregularities. That sounds serious, I said, flipping a page in my magazine. Mark says it's a witch hunt. He says you probably tipped them off to cover your incompetence. Eric looked at me suspiciously. Did you call someone? I've been here all day, Eric, watching baking shows. Remember? Right. He rubbed his face. Mark says if they ask me, I have to stick to the story, that you were unstable, that the files went missing when you left. And are you going to do that? I asked. Are you going to lie to the auditors? It's not lying exactly, Eric rationalized, his voice shaking. It's presenting a unified front. If Mark goes down, the whole department goes down. I have to protect the team. The team, I scoffed. You mean your bonus? Don't be like that. This is survival. Survival, I repeated. Okay, Eric, do what you have to do. I looked at him with genuine pity. He was a rat scurrying around a sinking ship, convinced that if he just chewed enough holes in the hull to let the water out, he'd float. Daniel texted me again. Daniel, the affidavit is signed. Mark just legally accused you of sabotage. And Eric just corroborated it in a witness interview. He said he saw you acting suspiciously with the files. My heart didn't break this time. It hardened into diamond. Me, burn them. Daniel, tomorrow, 10 o'clock a.m., come to the HQ building downtown, wear something sharp. I walked to my closet. I pushed aside the shapeless cardigans I usually wore to disappear. I pulled out a blazer I hadn't worn in years. It was red, blood red. The headquarters was a glass tower downtown, the kind of place that smells like money and aggressive air conditioning. I walked in wearing my red blazer and heels that clicked with authority. I wasn't Emily, the logistics coordinator, anymore. I was the Reaper. Mrs. Alvarez was in the lobby. She wasn't cleaning. She was wearing a floral Sunday dress and holding a purse. Mrs. Alvarez, I stopped. Today is my day off, she winked. Daniel says I can watch. He says it is educational. We went up to the 40th floor. Daniel met us. He looked impeccable, not a hair out of place. Ladies, he nodded. They are in conference room B. We will be in the observation suite next door. One-way mirror, audio feed. It felt like an interrogation room in a cop show. We sat in the darkened room, looking through the glass. Inside, Mark sat at the head of the table, but he looked small. His tie was loosened, his face slick with sweat. Eric sat next to him, tapping his foot nervously. It was an HR rep from corporate, a woman with eyes like flint and two liars. This is harassment, Mark was saying, his voice blustering but thin. I am a director. You can't just raid my office because a disgruntled ex-employee made up stories. We aren't here because of stories, Mark, the corporate HR rep said. We are here because of data. The data is corrupt. Mark slammed his hand on the table, his signature move. She deleted the files. Eric saw her. Tell them, Eric? Eric jumped. Yes, I saw her. She was very aggressive with the keyboard, and she was muttering about revenge. I watched my husband lie through his teeth. Mrs. Alvarez made a noise in her throat, a disgusted tusk. That boy has no spine, she whispered. Like a jellyfish. We recovered the logs, one of the lawyers said calmly. The deletion occurred at 11:45 a.m. on Tuesday. Emily had already left the building at 10:15 a.m. Mark paled. She must have remote accessed it. Her access was revoked at 10:20 a.m., the lawyer continued. The deletion command came from an iPad. Specifically, your iPad, Mark. Silence. Mark's mouth opened and closed like a fish on a dock. And regarding the Dutch shipment, the lawyer flipped a page. We found the original emails, the ones in the CYA folder. CYA folder? Mark whispered. Cover your ass, Daniel murmured next to me. Pressed a button on the console. Let's join them, shall we? Daniel stood up. Ready, Emily? I stood up. I smoothed my blazer. Ready. We walked out of the observation room and opened the door to the conference room. The look on their faces. God, if I could bottle it, I'd sell it as an anti-aging serum. Mark looked like he'd seen a ghost. Eric looked like he wanted to vomit. Emily, Mark stammered. What? What is she doing here? Security. She's not here as an employee. Daniel said, walking to the head of the table. Mark instinctively shrank back. She's here as a consultant, and my primary witness. Daniel turned to the room. Please sit down. We have a lot to get through. Specifically, the part where you tried to frame my mother's friend for your own fraud. Your mother? Mark looked confused. Daniel pointed to the glass wall. Mrs. Alvarez waved from the other room, a little cheerful wave. The cleaner, Daniel said, his voice dropping to absolute zero. You called her a Roomba last week. She's my mother. Mark stopped breathing. Eric put his head in his hands. Shall we begin? Daniel asked. The next 20 minutes were a bloodbath. Daniel didn't shout. He didn't slam doors. He just projected slides. Slide 1, the altered time cards. Grand larceny and wage theft, the lawyer noted. Federal crimes. Slide 2, the entertainment expenses. Embezzlement, the HR rep added. Slide 3, the affidavit. Perjury and filing a false police report. Mark was weeping, actually weeping. Snot and tears. The bluster was gone. He was just a pathetic, middle-aged man in a sweat-stained shirt realizing his life was over. I can fix it, Mark blubbered. I can pay it back. Please, my wife. She'll leave me, my kids. Daniel looked at him with no pity. You should have thought about families when you told Emily to go cry to her dead parents. Mark flinched as if he'd been slapped. You are terminated, effective immediately, Daniel said. Security will escort you out. We are handing this file to the district attorney. I suggest you get a lawyer, a good one. 2 security guards, big guys, looked like they ate dumbbells for breakfast, stepped forward. They hoisted Mark up by his armpits. He dragged his feet, sobbing. Then there was only Eric. The room was quiet. Eric stared at the table. And you? Daniel turned to him. I was just following orders, Eric whispered, the Nuremberg defense. Classic. You corroborated a false report, Daniel said. You lied to auditors. You conspired to frame your own wife. I was scared. Eric pleaded, looking at me. Becky, tell him, Mark is a monster. He made me do it. I stepped forward. I looked down at my husband. He looked so small. He didn't make you do anything, Eric, I said. You chose him over me. Every single time. We can't fire you, unfortunately, Daniel said, looking at the HR rep. Union rules require a warning process for your level of involvement, since you didn't technically sign the deletion order. Eric let out a breath of relief. Thank you, Daniel. I promise, however, Daniel interrupted. We are restructuring. The branch is being dissolved. Its clients are being absorbed by the regional remote team. Her position as senior manager is redundant. So, I am fired? No, we have an opening in the warehouse. Night shift. Inventory control, it pays. Significantly less, and you will have no direct reports. Inventory, Eric choked. I'm a manager, not anymore. Take it or leave it. Eric looked at me. Becky, we can't live on that salary. You can't, I corrected him. I'll be fine. What? Daniel handed me a folder. A blue one this time. Emily has accepted a position as the new director of process integrity, Daniel announced. She will be overseeing compliance for the entire region. She reports directly to me. She will work remotely. Eric's jaw dropped. She's my boss? No, I said. I'm not your boss, Eric, because I don't supervise entry-level inventory staff. That would be a conflict of interest. I turned to Daniel. I think we're done here. I think we are, Daniel smiled. I walked out. Didn't look back at Eric. I heard him calling my name, but it sounded like it was coming from underwater. That night, I was packing boxes. Not my desk, my house, my phone rang. Unknown number, I answered. Emily, it was Mark. He sounded drunk. Emily, please, you have to talk to them. You have the ear of the VP. Tell them it was a misunderstanding. Please, I'm begging you. Begging? I asked, putting a framed photo of my dog into a box. Mrs. Alvarez said you would be. Gives a shit about the cleaner. Mark screamed, the old rage leaking through. My life is over. You did this. You ruined me. You ruined yourself, Mark. I just turned on the lights. I'll sue you. I'll tell everyone you're a whore. Go ahead, I said calmly. But before you do, maybe you should go cry to your parents. I hung up, blocked the number. It felt better than orgasm. The front door opened. Eric walked in. He looked like a ghost. He saw the boxes. Leaving? He asked. His voice was hollow. I'm staying at my sister's, I said. The divorce lawyer will contact you on Monday. Becky, please, we can fix this. I'll take the night shift. We can make it work. I'm sorry, I was weak. You were weak, I agreed, zipping up my suitcase. But that's not why I'm leaving. I'm leaving because when he fired me, you looked at your shoes. And today, when I walked into that room, you looked at your bonus. I love you, he sobbed. No, Eric. Love safety, and I'm not safe anymore. I'm the woman who got your boss fired. I walked out to my car, the Civic, not the least BMW that was about to be repossessed. I drove to the office one last time to drop off my badge. It was late. The lights were dim. Mrs. Alvarez was there, buffing the floors in the lobby. The rhythmic whir-whir-whir of the machine was the only sound. She stopped when she saw me. She turned off the machine. He called me, I said. Mrs. Alvarez smiled. It was a beautiful, terrifying smile. They always do, my hija. When the power goes, the man goes. Thank you, I said, for everything. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a peppermint. She pressed it into my hand. You are the boss now, she said. Be a good one. Don't make me call Daniel on you. We both laughed. It echoed in the empty lobby where Mark used to stomp around like a king. His nameplate was already gone from the directory. I walked out into the cool night air. I unwrapped the peppermint and popped it in my mouth. It tasted like sugar and victory. I'm 45 years old. I'm divorced. I live in a condo with my dog. And every morning, I log into my computer, check the compliance reports, and make sure that nobody, anywhere in this company, ever has to cry to their parents again. Big thanks, you legends of the old office days. Subscribe to keep the switch-flicking chaos alive. Your ex-boss is shaking in their loafers.